Hi, I'm Carolyn,
And I'm Davy.
and we're just two Asian women having candid conversations about whatever the hell we want to talk about with an intersectional flair.
That being said, today we're going to talk about how it's the very last episode of Just Two Asian Women, or JTAW, and what it was like starting a podcast and what we learned from this experience. So get comfy and stick around. Hey, everybody, my name is Davy. I'm from Long Beach, California, East Side Long Beach, and I'm 26, Cambodian American, and today's our last episode.
I know. I'm so happy that we did this whole podcast so consistently too. By the way, I'm Carolyn. I'm the other half of Just Two Asian Women, Laotian American, 25, and I am from San Diego.
Yes, I feel like we're consistent people too.
Yeah, right? Good for us. I feel
Yeah.
proud. Like we said at the top of the episode, we're going to talk about like what it was like starting the podcast, our feelings, and I don't know, all of that nostalgic shit. So
Mhm. And
let's
some of
fucking do it.
Yeah, and some of you had some questions, which is really sweet. Thanks so much because we need content.
Yes, thank you for the free content.
So let's get started. Some juicy stuff you've probably been wondering about podcasts.
Mm-hmm. We started JTAW in January. I think our first episode was actually January 24th, 2021.
Mhm.
And the idea to start JTAW was probably like 2 weeks prior to that. It went
Yeah.
rolling really quickly, to be
Yeah.
honest. Um, and I remember I was just talking to Davi, as I do every now and again. And I was like, you know what we should do? We should start a podcast. And thank God Davi was like, yeah, we should.
I have a question. What
Yeah.
made me a good co-host?
Well, I felt like just through our conversations already, I feel like we volley with each other really well, or we understand each other's ideas well enough to build off it or counteract
Mhm.
it or what have you, just to keep the conversation going. So I felt like our perspectives were detailed and nuanced and interesting enough to start a podcast. And I was like, if it's gonna be with anyone, it's gonna be with Davi.
Aw. Yeah, because I was thinking about it because when we talk, we would talk a lot and like it has a lot of breath. So I was just like, okay, that makes sense. It was just funny because I was just like, ah, she chose me.
And thanks for agreeing too, because you could have fully been all like, with you? No, what the fuck? So I appreciate that a lot. You've been a great fucking co-founder to Just Two Asian Women. It would not have been Just Two Asian Women without Tavi.
Aw. Yeah. I when Carolyn came to me with the idea, I was scared, but that's also excited. Because we did have like good conversations and I was like, I think this is a really good way to talk. We'll just talk to each other and also bring representation for Southeast Asian women.
Hell yeah.
And it's just not like talking about whatever. I mean, we do, but it's more geared towards social issues, politics, more intersectional stuff.
True.
Um, and I felt like that can actually help people.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
hopefully in an entertaining way. I mean, we have like 30 regular
Yeah.
viewers.
And we love every one of you. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, I feel and Davi, if you didn't know already, Davi already does YouTube, Davi up on youtube.com. Look her up. And I was like, of course, I should ask Davi to do this with me. I mean, she already does content creation, basically. I felt like you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like it was just an easy transition for you to go from like the YouTube camera to a podcast scenario.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think on my YouTube channel, I feel more pressure to be PC or not bring in, you know, inequalities in finances and stuff. So I feel like the podcast is a really good outlet for that and has pushed me more to be like, no, fuck it. It's my channel. I can talk about whatever I want. I should be able to talk about inequalities and the pay gap and the investing gap, etc.
Oh, that's so interesting that you mentioned that. I
Right.
wonder, I guess now that you mention it, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like podcasts are almost like a way for people to express like a more, I don't want to say radical, but like a deeper opinion on something.
Mm-hmm. And it's less formal, it's more conversational. So it's not like you're presenting it like as, I don't know, it's less pressure. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, I agree completely. Like I used to do YouTube videos as well, and this is
Hmm.
like far easier to just get like started with.
The what's behind the scenes what is a little bit was more difficult for myself was that the marketing, because like Carolyn's really good with her social media and marketing. And for me, it was a huge learning curve, like using Canva, Instagram posts, keeping up with a schedule. I was just like, oh my God. And you would think I would be a little bit better at it because I have YouTube, but I would like, it's a little bit, it's different. Made me really appreciate marketing a lot more. And it's an actual job and industry. It's not just like, bloop, I put a picture up. Okay. And I really appreciated creating more because on the surface, I'm sure we thought about this. Oh, YouTubers, what is such an easy job? Or podcasting, oh, so easy to sit down and talk and record. It is to like a certain extent, but it's a lot of work to make it good quality.
Just to create the content itself, like the podcast episode, I think is relatively easy, but there's so much more we have to do after that. This podcast thing, especially if it's like a two-woman show, it's a lot because we have to create the content, but then we got to edit it afterwards. And then we got to make like the YouTube version of it and the like audio version of it. We got to be our own social media managers, basically, where we create our own posts for Instagram. It's very busy work, honestly. Like, it does not take as little time as you would think to do all that. Managing Instagram, managing TikTok, writing our script notes, blah, blah, blah. It's so much more than just sitting down and being all like, hey, this is my mic and I'm talking into it.
Yeah, exactly. And at first, I was really overwhelmed and stressed TF out, mostly because I have like, high expectations for myself. And like Carolyn was like such a visionary in JTAW and how to scale it up with social media marketing, which is brilliant. Because I was just like, oh, la da da, like I don't know much about it. So for me, I felt like I had to catch up to her, and I was like, oh, I didn't want to disappoint her, honestly. So something I feel like that I learned a lot of personal. For me, it was like some personal and some technical, right? So learning how to work with a co-host. I've never done this before, and it can be scary working with a friend, right? You never know what happens. Like I'm really happy that Carolyn's a really great friend and also a really great like partner because I feel like those roles are so different.
Yes,
And
I
has
agree.
our friendship.
Yeah,
Making
we're still friends.
yeah, yeah. And for me, I'm like 10 to bottle things in and I was really stressed and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Carolyn wants to do all this stuff." And I'm like, I don't know if I can. So instead of holding it in, I had to be like, "No, like you got to be honest cuz like we hadn't really discussed expectations that much of each other of like responsibilities and how much is allocated and stuff. So I was just like, "Hey, Carolyn, I'm really stressed." I don't know how I told you, but I was just like, I was like, "Can I like, if I'm having like stressful weeks, can like you take over sometimes?" I said something along that lines of
Yeah.
that because I was just like, "Oh my God, there's just so much to learn," and she took it really well, and I was like, "Thank God." I was like,
Yeah, actually, I yelled at Davi and then I told her that we're ending the podcast because of that. I'm just kidding. No, and I'm really glad that you brought it up because, like, it makes me happy to know that you're comfortable enough to bring that to me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I will make it clear as well that there's never any disappointment, any disappointing feeling coming from me towards you or anything like that. Or you feeling like you need to catch up. I mean, you could feel however you want, but in my opinion, I feel like you were a great co-host in all aspects on the back
Oh,
end and the front end.
thanks.
Yeah, Davi is very reliable.
Hells yeah,
And
I am.
yes, you are. And when you're working with like you said, working with a partner, it's very different than your friend relationship because when you're friends with someone, there isn't really like a set thing to do. I mean, all you
Right.
do is vibe with each other. And that's all you need to do as friends. That's totally good.
Mhm.
Now you're working on something together, that's different, and it's different because now you two are your own bosses and you two need to
Yep.
create
That's
the
a
responsibilities, the expectations. Oh my god, I'm just repeating
let's see,
myself.
responsibilities and
Yeah.
roles,
Oh,
tasks.
that's a good one. Yeah, thank you, Davi. I always came into it like it doesn't always need to be like half and half all the time, even though maybe it seemed like I was very serious about this, and I was because I like doing things.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I'm like, it's just a podcast.
right. Okay.
So if there's like a day where like a post isn't up or like a day where um
A
editing
story. Yeah.
wasn't finished at a certain time, I'm like, Okay, whatever. Something that I learned from JTAW is, well, I just learned that podcasting is a lot of work. I didn't expect it to be fucking easy when
It
I.
really is, especially if you want to scale it. If it's one thing, just like fuck around and record it and that's it, and not
Mhm.
upload it to any other site. Yeah, it's easy. But then, oh, yeah, about what can you kind of explain to them how we kind of ran it and why
Oh
there's a lot of
yeah.
work?
Yeah, so we planned out all of our episodes beforehand. Um, and when I say that, I mean like we planned out the topics, and then maybe like a couple of days or a week before, we would write out our script notes. Nothing like too, what's the word? Like by the
Scripted.
book. Yeah, nothing too scripted, but
Mhm.
more like a skeleton of how we would lead the conversation. So we always made sure we had that so that when we started our like Zoom recording calls, we'll be like, okay, we have the script up, let's get talking. We also talk about what content we're gonna create that week for Instagram, which is our main social media, I would say.
Mhm.
And we agreed on 3 posts a week, and a lot of them are kind of like informational posts based
Mhm.
on the episode topic that week. So after, recording, we have to sit down and be like, okay, for the next like couple of weeks, we should do a post about this and a post about this, and it should look like
Mhm.
this, it should look like that, blah blah blah. Again, it's a lot of the back end work, and that's not even including like all the editing that Davi and
Editing.
I do separately on our own. And on top of editing, we have to make like a YouTube edit of our podcast.
Which is different because it includes our face.
Yes, yes. And we have to make TikTok clips from our episodes as well. It's a lot. Obviously, any of you out there who are thinking about starting a podcast, like you don't have to make a YouTube edit, you don't have to make a
Mhm.
TikTok. You don't even have to have an Instagram if you don't want to. You
Mhm.
could fully just talk on your mic or your phone and then upload it and then be done with it.
But if you want to scale it up and like be more public and take it seriously and potentially build an audience, and I don't know if your goal is to be monetized, and yeah, you have to take it that seriously.
Yes. Yeah, so all the planning like helped a lot, honestly. And
Mhm.
Davi's a great planner. That also helped a lot.
Yeah, I think we both really are organized and like to plan
Mm-hmm.
like low key, like so other people are like, oh my God, you plan weeks ahead. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, cause
Yes.
I'm not trying to like will it be found with my pants down or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Not that anyone is gonna actually see that, but it's like
Yeah. Sorry, Larry.
sorry, Ponzu. Larry
Sorry.
fucking follows me to the bathroom and shit. I'm like,
Oh,
leave.
Ponzu. So yeah, and the consistency helps a lot too. Like we always record on a certain day. I think there's only like one
Mhm.
time where we didn't record on a day that we were supposed to record, and that was because I was watching The Devil Wears Prada, and I was really upset with that movie.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, because I was like, it was 6 o'clock, right? Then I
Yeah.
left somewhere early, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. But I was like, hello. I was like, I messaged her. I was like, okay, whatever. And I called her and I was like, hey, we still recording it, right? And she's like, wait, give me one moment. And she like continues to talk to Tito about a fucking movie.
Everyone, okay, and I agree. I should have been on schedule with that. So you're not wrong, Davi. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
you're wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right. But I will say that everyone loves The Devil Wears
I
Prada.
do, but you don't?
No,
Do
I
you like it
thought
for what it is?
I
Like when it was out, you know what I'm saying?
I didn't watch it when it was out. So, but everyone always talked about it, so I watched it. And I thought the first half was really fun. I
Mhm.
wish the whole movie was just like the first half of the movie
Mhm.
because I thought it was fun. I thought it was cute. I was like, oh, haha, she's trying to do all these things. But the second half, which is usually when the movie needs to get more serious, when the second half came around, I was like, it just didn't hit for me. Like, I didn't think the payoff was strong enough. Like,
Mhm.
I get where they're going for, but to me, it didn't make enough sense. There wasn't enough build up to it for it to make me feel good at the end.
I feel that. Like for me, I think I was satisfied, but now as I'm older, I'm probably have a different reaction towards it. Like, okay, she did all that, got approval, and is happy.
I think it's a fun movie, but maybe perhaps a little overhyped for the story. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's my mini Devil Wears Prada review rant thing, and that's why we didn't record that one time. But otherwise, I felt like we were very consistent with our
Mhm.
posting, with our recording.
Yeah.
with our
And
scripting.
And what was really great too is like I really enjoy how Carolyn was really flexible because we used to record, I think, on a Saturday,
Mhm.
and then we realized, oh God, we had to like sometimes have to edit on Sundays. But
Yeah.
we just found it was kind of stressful to because we upload on Mondays at and we schedule it for 12 a.m. And then I was like, hey, can we record on Fridays and so that we can have our weekend to enjoy, right? But then we wanted to enjoy our Friday evenings. So then we're like, let's record Thursday. So today's Thursday.
Yes. Yeah, that worked out really well.
Carolyn touched on this, but we both learned that the work doesn't have to be 50. I think coming in, I kind of assumed that, because we're like half two Asian women, we're one half and the other half. But Caroline, as I said, was a visionary. So she's like, oh, she wanted TikTok. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of a lot. I don't know how. Da, da, da. But then she was like, oh, it's okay. Like, I'll upload them. And like do the captions. I was like, thank God. And that's the same thing with companies too. When people are co-hosts, like some people will own like 60% of the company or 70% of the company, and the other person will own like 30% of the company. Not that like we have like a venture capital or whatever.
Oh my God, imagine.
But the same idea behind it is like, like in partnerships and stuff, and mostly everything, it's not always 50-50, even though it seems the most equitable and fair, but it just depends on the situation.
I agree because, it's like today for me, tomorrow for you. Or today for you, tomorrow for me, whatever the saying is. And to scale up this idea a bit, it's like life is always a give and take. So, in every aspect of it, whether you want to do something new or try something new, there's a give and take. So, even in like a romantic relationship, there's a give and take. Some days, someone is going to be sad and they don't want to put into the relationship as much. And then the other person needs to pick up the slack. Today for you, tomorrow for me. It's always going to be like that. I think that is what you should always expect because that is what is going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that you should shirk your responsibility like willingly, but I think that is just the natural progression of things in which it's always going to be like an ocean wave. Someone's going to come in and someone's going to go out. But if there's anyone out there looking to start a podcast, I mean, Davy and I talked a lot about essentially the back end of the podcast work, but some hard advice for people looking to start a podcast. Davi, what do you think? What do you say?
I think we should always start with the mission, purpose, niche, because that's ultimately what guides you through the content creation, what to talk about, and sticking to like why you want to do this in the first place. Yes, it's one thing for me and Carolyn to have fun conversations, but it's another level of impact or meaning when we actually have a mission behind it. And it doesn't have to be that serious, but ours, we really wanted to have more representation of Southeast Asian women because we see a lot of East Asian representation, which is great for the Asian people, but we are not a monolith. And we wanted to do that for like this part of Asian people. And I think on top of that, to even add another layer, we wanted to talk about things that were intersectional. So it wasn't just like two Southeast Asian women talking about, whatever, which is fine too, but things that we really cared about. And we wanted like taboo subjects such as investing with women, um, political matters to be in the forefront and to be common conversation that should be talked about because conversation really shifts things. So, and then I think our niche, I don't know if we didn't really have a niche. We kind of just talked about everything, but that's what helps us. The mission helped us figure
Mhm.
out what we wanted to talk about. But also, what it said in our intro, we talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about.
Exactly.
So it lays off the
So
pressure.
I agree. And when we first started the podcast, Davi did mention that we should bring up like, oh, what's going to be our purpose? What's going to be our mission? And it's everything that Davi mentioned. We wanted to have conversations about things that we felt were important that weren't talked enough amongst like other Asian women, other Southeast Asian women. And we just wanted to be out here being examples of what Southeast Asian women could be.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if someone's looking to start a podcast specifically, my advice is to find like podcast inspirations so that you could determine the style and the structure of your podcast. I listen to a lot of NPR podcasts, and when we started JTAW, I was like, it's not going to be that because NPR podcasts are scripted, they're well researched,
Mm-hmm.
fact checked, and then double fact checked. And I was like, no, that's not going to be us because that's way too much like pre podcast planning that I'm comfortable with. So it needed to be more chit chatty, is how I described it. and loosely structured. And that being said, I took inspo for JTAW from Asian Boss Girl, which is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like professional Asian woman co-hosts talking about literally everything in their life, relationships, jobs, astrology. I don't fucking know. They literally talk about anything. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I want JTAW to be like, but with our own JTAW flair.
Exactly. And I think one thing, if you're starting a podcast, is that something technical is to get feedback. Indirectly got this, but for my cousin, because I asked her, hey, can you watch one of our episodes and tell us the highlights and timestamps so you can help me with TikToks? And she said, okay. And then when she watched it, she's like, hey, just heads up. Like sometimes, in your intro, you guys kind of go trail off on like a topic that's not relevant. Like, and I said, oh, okay. So that's really good feedback because, I didn't think about that. And I noticed that too when I was listening to other podcast episodes in different podcasts, is that sometimes when the host and their guests go off on like something irrelevant, like honestly, for more than 30 seconds to a minute, I kind of just want to skip or like leave. So I told Carolyn that, and she's like, okay. And then now, hopefully, you might have noticed that we kind of just get to the chase.
Yes, I hope you'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. Like if chit-chatting podcasts, they're really hard for me to like because it is so loosely structured, but they need to be structured enough. So it's like almost a good balance because there's some
Yes.
chit-chatting podcasts that have something in the title. And I'm like, oh, I want to listen to what's in the fucking title of the podcast.
Right.
And then it starts, and I'm like, when are they going to fucking talk about the thing in the title?
Exactly.
So, and feedback is really important. So I really appreciate that your friend mentioned that. We appreciate all the very kind feedback that we've gotten as well. Like that was so cool. I think we put out a very good product, but at the same time, I'm always like surprised whenever someone takes effort and time and like thought out of their day just to send us a thoughtful, kind comment,
Yeah, me too. I was really overwhelmed by all the support because, first of all, I don't really know how many people listen to podcasts and who would even be interested in listening to ours. And then, but even at that point, to take time and energy, like Carolyn said, to write something so nice, and they didn't have to because, a lot of times we consume, entertainment, and like how often do people leave a comment, So it was really
Yeah.
sweet, and that helped us keep on going and feel appreciated. We even like have a folder of like your compliments.
We do. All that to say, like, we appreciate y'all so much. Like, there's very few ways that I could like describe it eloquently. It's just like, thank you. As we said at the top of the episode, this is actually the very last episode of JTAW of season 1. I'm feeling very nostalgic because I had recently listened to the very first episode of our podcast to record our previous episode. Like I said in that previous episode, I remember listening to that made me remember like all the feelings that I had when I was recording that, like my mindset, just the way I felt. And I was like, damn, that's so cool. We did that like consistently from January to July. It's just I feel like proud,
Yes.
Like we did that. We were like, let's do it. And then we did it. Like we literally
Exactly.
did all of it.
And that's kind of how I want to approach life, honestly.
Yeah, right? Just like fucking do it. And then the end product is like, wow, I did that. That's fucking cool.
I think, and it too is like you get to enjoy the process. And with podcast episodes, I feel like the medium of like an actual conversation is just so interesting to listen to. And just like another thing about your nice comments, I think the reason why podcasts are so interesting and they're growing a lot in popularity is you really feel like you're talking with somebody.
Yep.
Like during work, and I'm not gonna lie, when I have my students do work for like 10 minutes, like a warm up or something, and I'm on mute, I play podcasts because it's been so lonely teaching online that I kind of play a podcast just to feel like someone's there. So,
Same.
I think a second huge thing too is we love to learn, and people learn with other people. And it's not typically like a freaking lecture, like bam, 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 bam. The way we receive information is slowly learning and through conversation.
Yeah.
So like you always learn from your friends, oh, you're investing, how are you investing? Or oh, how do you draw? That's how we learn naturally, slowly and collaboratively.
So important to have conversations with other people, and like having this podcast project with Davi like literally forced me to have conversations with Davi because we have a podcast to record. And just sometimes when I'm looking at the script notes and I look at like the notes that Davi wrote for herself, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting point. I wonder like what that's going to be about. That's really cool. Just going through this whole thing, not only learning how to manage social media and this podcast thing together, but learning what Davi thinks and how she feels, and delving deep into a topic with her.
I think in addition to learning about how each other feels too, we also learn how we feel because similar to writing, when we talk out loud, we're reflecting and we're kind of crystallizing our thoughts on said topics. It was really
Yeah.
cool to see like how that worked in tandem, like learning about our friend on a deeper level and learning about ourselves too. And I think
Yeah.
just society in general.
And right now, we're going to get into a little FAQ section just to commemorate the end of JTAW. Now, we don't know if we're coming back for
Mm-hmm.
season 2. And honestly, everything's up in the air right now for me personally,
Me
because I'm going
too.
to grad school and I'm like, podcasting, as I literally said this entire episode, podcasting is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the only way it would be less work is if we like hired out somewhere, but that just doesn't make any sense for us right now.
Mhm.
I feel great about starting JTAW, and I feel great closing out JTAW after achieving so much, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And with that, thank you everyone for sending in the questions. We will answer them right now. We have Ashley. Hi, Ashley. She says, how much time a week does it take to make this podcast?
Okay. So it depends, maybe 7 to 8 hours a week. And this is mostly because we have 3 hours of recording every week. So we record 2 episodes a week so we can batch. And we time them for about 45 minutes so we're not trailing off. And of course we talk in between, we have a break. After we record, we discuss about our future posts, back end stuff, podcasting stuff.
Yeah, I also calculated about 8 hours a week for JTAW because it's about, 3 hours of like a Zoom call with Davi. So that's three. And then the rest of the 5 hours is kind of the back end stuff. So to edit an episode that week, usually it takes me like double the raw episode length. So it's usually an hour. So it takes me 2 hours just to do the whole edit, maybe like another hour to make the YouTube edit and to make all the TikToks. Where am I at? That's 5 hours. And then another couple hours to make the Canva post and all the social media managing stuff. Anyway, it's basically like 8 hours a week, which is a good chunk of time
Yes.
when you're already working full time.
Exactly. And have other like responsibilities and hobbies.
Yeah. The next question we have is from Horace. Hi, Horace. What is the common struggle you guys seek to overcome? So for me, it's overcoming the lack of Southeast Asian women representation, especially with like Laotian women. I feel like I wish there was more of us out there, but there isn't right now. I'm still looking, but I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just be one of those Laotian women.
Just taking life by the reins.
Exactly. No one else is going to do it for me.
In addition to what Carolyn said, I kind of mentioned already, but increasing intersectional conversation. And more importantly, too, through that, we also want to empower women of color through talking about taboo topics like our episode Violence Against Women, money, investing, Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things we want to talk about and that we want to bring to the forefront. And the next question is from Mai. If you had to relive one year of your life, which year would it be and why? Thanks, Mai.
I would relive 2017 because that was the first year that Tito and I got both of our dogs, Mochi and Nopal. I love them so much. And that was the first year that we lived on our own in an apartment, like no roommates, just us and the dogs. It was fucking awesome. It was really hard at the same time because I was like literally a student and he was working like double time to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard, but it was kind of awesome at the same time.
Aw, it's like kind of the beginning of something, you know?
Yeah, I guess the beginning of like the next phase of our life, really.
That's very nostalgic.
What about
My
you,
favorite
Duffy?
year
Uh-huh.
was also 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough. It's so many reasons too. I love 2017. So I graduated college as bad bitches do.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in Pacific Beach, which is like a party young town on the coast. So I was having a lot of
Yes.
fun. Yeah. I was single the first half of
Mm-hmm.
the year, taking this other half of the year, like my first like serious relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which ended, but it's fine. And I traveled a lot. Once I graduated college during the summer, I went to Cambodia and then Hawaii and just like some other states in the US. So it was just an amazing explorative time. And I was just so happy and free. And it was sunny. I just imagined sun.
That's good. Davi did it all 2017.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking awesome. And the traveling too. Hell yeah.
Yes. Like it was one of the best parts because it really broadened my horizon and how I view the world. It was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, miss it. We're gonna travel again one time.
I
But
know.
for yes, but for now we'll be answering these questions.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is thank you, Tammy. They ask, how do you balance podcasting with your jobs? And do you have any tips for starting a side hustle?
I am always rebalancing my life. So I make time for something, but it also means that something has to come off my plate. And coming to terms with that, I think helps me balance like all the different projects that I have or want to do with my full-time work. So my tip for starting a side hustle is to keep that in mind and also make a detailed plan and keep a good planner and capitalize on when you feel energetic because inspiration doesn't strike often, but when it does, you should go out and do it like soon.
And I think how do we balance it? I am honestly for me, it's like being really prepared. I remember somebody said something along the lines like, I'm too lazy, so I'm going to do it now. So instead of like letting my plates pile up or whatever, or like I clean my plates right away, I like do some meal prepping. It's kind of gross. I don't like 5-day chicken, but I'm really efficient with my calendar. I like schedule block. I'm really efficient with like picking my outfits for like no time is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is, it's because usually I'm social media. But I just recently cut that out.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. A pro tip is well, I have two devices. I have an iPad and a phone. I'm mostly on my phone and hardly use my iPad. So I just do JTAW posting on the iPad so I don't get carried away with like scrolling down forever. And then I think in terms of editing, I carve in some time, like during what I call dead time. So for example, like I had to take my car to get its wheels rotated. So it's about an hour and a half I have to wait. So I'm just like, all right, let me get my laptop out. Like I'm already waiting, whatever, fuck it.
Right.
So anyway, that's how we do it. And yeah, it's some things have to be taken out. Or yeah, because I refuse to lack sleep.
Yeah, sleep should not be compromised
Yeah.
for anything, in my opinion.
And our last question is from Sammy, which is a very great, wholesome question.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
So I would say mine is playing with all my stuffed animals. I just had like an army of them, all different animals. They all had names and personalities. And
Aww.
I would literally just be there like talking to myself, but it would be the different voices of the animals and they would just go on a lot of great adventures together and it was great fun.
Did you have like what kind of animals did you have?
So the main cast was like Dolly the dolphin. Dolly had a shark boyfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. I forgot his name, but he was cool. There was Wolfie the wolf. He was kind of like a loner type.
Mhm.
Uh, there is a purple poodle I had named Demir, and she was very
Oh.
shy. There was a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Fluff Fluff, and Mrs. Fluff Fluff was a fluffy bunny, and she was very motherly. And Mr. Fluff Fluff was was a bear with a heart that said "I love you."
Oh.
And he was like a goofball type of husband. Actually, a little tangent about Mr. Fluff Fluff. I remember when I was a kid, I just like grabbed stuffed animals because I needed more friends for the stuffed animal party.
Oh.
And my cousin was staying at our house for like a long time. She was like living with us for a hot second. I went into her room. She wasn't in there, but I went into her room and I saw at the very top, like at the very tippity top of the dresser, and it was a very high dresser. Mr. Fluff Fluff was like hidden up there. I was like, oh, a stuffed animal. I don't know who gave it to her. I don't
Mhm.
know what was the story behind Mr. Fluff Fluff, but all
Me
I knew
too.
is that I saw Mr. Fluff Fluff and I was like, I need him. And I literally just took him. Like I didn't ask her. I had a bad like I don't know why I like just took things from places, but I would just be taking things, snatching things left and right as a kid. I
Oh
had
my
no
gosh.
perception of things belonging to other people.
Wow.
And one day I remember she was like crying in the room about like a boyfriend that she had or something. She was in high school. Now as an adult thinking back on like that time and I'm like there's a stuffed animal bear with an I love you heart on
Oh.
it hidden at the very top of a dresser where she couldn't get it. Did her boyfriend give this to her? Maybe I'll ask her about it one
Oh.
day. Was
Like
she
you didn't know if
sad
it
that
was
it
for
was
sure
gone?
yours?
Oh, it was not mine. Like it
Oh, I thought, oh my God.
no, Mr. Fluff Fluff is fully hers. Like it
Oh,
never belonged to me. I fully took
that's how you
him.
got Mr. Fluff Fluff.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, you're mean.
I know. I was a terrible child. I should ask her about that later when I visit her.
That's so funny, dude. You're just like, it's ours, it's mine.
This is mine now.
Exactly. You're mean. You're like, finders keepers. Yeah.
Literally. But what was your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite always goes back to when I was a kid playing at the park with my brother, my cousins. We had a big old park with like really big trees, and my dad would just leave us off to play
Mhm.
with the other kids while he played volleyball. And sometimes it's funny because he would bet money on the volleyball games he played. So sometimes he would win like $90. And whether he won or lost, he would always take us to get like thrifty ice cream. It was so good.
Oh,
Yeah.
thrifty ice cream too.
Bomb. Yeah. And it's like affordable and it was like a nice treat. And honestly, just brings back so many good memories of just being a kid and being free. And I'm really, I don't know if I necessarily missed that being a kid, but I missed the feeling of just not having responsibility, being in the present moment, just playing, making things up. And I really appreciate that my dad gave us all that freedom to just roam around this big ass park. Who knows what could happen to us?
Yeah.
Because I feel like now a lot of people like are overprotective of their children. They can't walk to school. They can't play outside. They can't do shit because everyone's so scared about media fucking over exposing or over covering like kidnaps and just bad things happening to everybody.
Right.
So anyway, it just makes me feel like like happy and it was like a cool tradition and there's ice cream involved.
Yeah, anytime there's ice cream involved, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I love that. Yeah, the freedom that you used to, I mean, freedom, that's a big word. You weren't really free, but like
Yeah.
the, the feeling of freedom.
Right.
Thanks for that question, Sammy. I'm glad we got to relive
Yeah.
that. I'm glad I got to relive stealing my cousin's teddy bear
You're like my collection.
for my collection. So with that, we're gonna close out JTAW.
Yeah.
So this is our JTAW farewell. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. I've said it before, I'll say it again that like I appreciate y'all sticking with us throughout this little podcasting journey. I am very proud of like everything we were able to achieve from the beginning of this year to the half of this year. I feel like I learned a lot of new skills. So I got to thank you for that, Davi, because I literally could not have done it without you.
Aw, thanks, Carolyn. I feel the same sentiment. I want to thank our audience and friends of friends for the support. Honestly, it really is cool to see how we can connect with other people and how you can connect with us about things that we care about. I learned a lot of new skills too. I feel like this was a learning curve, and Carolyn was like the perfect partner to work with because we just complement each other really well, and we're very similar in how we approach things and think about things.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like projects you'll always take something or multiple things away from it. And if you guys are ever wanting to make a podcast, because some of you told us that you want to, just do it. Honestly.
Literally, just do it. I don't know when you're going to hear from us again, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of you know us in real life. So I
Uh-huh.
don't text us anytime. I don't know.
Yeah, text
Um,
us.
call us, send us a postcard if you know
Yeah,
our
DM us.
address. Yeah, just thank you for everything. Like it's
Yes.
been really, really awesome. I'm happy to leave JTAW at this moment because it's been
Same.
so great.
It's been fun. It's bittersweet, but
Mhm.
it's been a good time. We're going to wrap up today's podcast here, especially for this season and
Mhm.
maybe forever. Who knows? We want to hear from you. Are you thinking of making a podcast? Or shoot us with some of your favorite podcast episodes and names. And since this is the last JTAW episode of season 1, let us know what your favorite episode was. Email us at just2asianwomen@gmail.com, DM us on Instagram at just2asianwomen podcast, or comment on our YouTube channel at just2asianwomen.
And you can always find our podcast on Spotify, Anchor FM, and YouTube.
And thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed it, please consider sharing with your friends. That would be awesome. Again, my name is Davy.
And for the last time, I'm Carolyn. And we're just
Just
two
two
Asian
Asian
women.
women.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.